This is Julia Sotas, and you're listening to A Different Reality. What else is possible beyond this reality that you haven't yet chosen?
Hi everybody, and welcome to A Different Reality. I always get the name of this podcast mixed up. Welcome to A Different Reality, and I always want to say beyond this reality or totally beyond this reality, but welcome. I am so glad to have you guys here today. And today my guest is Megan Hill, and she started working with Access doing social media, and now it's almost sort of like she's sort of does all areas and all kinds of different things. And I just love the way that she works, and I actually work with her, and I love working with her. And so I just wanted to have a conversation today about these huge projects that she carries, all of these different energies, and how she does it, and all of the using the different tools of Access. So thank you so much for coming on, Megan.
Thanks for having me. I love the title of your podcast because it can just be anything, you know?
Yeah, it's like totally, it's so anything that I can never remember it because it's not solid enough.
Exactly.
Oh man. So, you know, I've known you for a long time, or it seems like I've known you for like my whole life and beyond. um, and you know, I see, you know, the different things that you do and create, and I just wanted to talk today about like how you create things and these huge projects that you're constantly dealing with. Like I compared it once to putting on an Access class is like putting on a wedding, but it's like every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd love to hear more about that, because I think that's something that people are a little bit can be daunted by, because it's not something that everybody, you know, believes in their ability to do. And you know, when you have this trust in yourself, you know, you can really carry things forward and really create huge things. So I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. When you're saying that, I'm like, wow, I do a lot of things.
You do a lot of things. I can see it because I'm on the outside. I'm like, whoa.
I'd say one of the things, like, it's very funny because when I go to create something for myself, like if I do my own class or my own thing, I tend to go into, like, it's not as easy, which is a little bit weird for me because usually everything's quite easy. But I'd say the one thing about like working with Access over the years is it's really taught me how to not be the like source, or you know, the only one who can do everything. It's like as you said, if you're doing wedding size events every weekend, and then you know, you and I work with telecalls, and those are happening during the week when those big events aren't happening, and those are just intense sometimes. So it's like you can't do all of that on your own. And so one of my greatest things that I've gotten and that I've learned over time is actually how to work with people, and how to work, not have people work for you, but work with people. And it's not been easy, you know. It's like in this reality, whatever you want to call it, or how I was taught, you know, to to function with people was very different. There are teams and there are structures, and if you're the leader of the team, then you need to do this. And you know, it's like all of that doesn't actually allow for the speed with which everyone can like run with, if you're doing, you know, huge amounts of structures and systems, and you know, someone's in charge and the other person has to follow. Like none of that actually works very well. So
Right.
I think that one of the beauties of the whole business of Access, it's like I am one, you know, one creator of in a sea of creators. And when it's amazing is when everyone's like galloping together, you know.
Yeah.
Gary calls us gaggles, like gaggles of geese. Because you know, if you know, it's like geese fly together, but they fly in a formation but it's not that that formation stays the same and the lead geese is always in the front and the one in the second is always there. If you watch geese and how they move, they are moving from formation to formation. Sometimes they're in the front, sometimes they're in the back, sometimes they swoop down for food or water or something. Sometimes, like, I've just been watching I don't know if you have geese where you live, but we have them.
Yeah. I'm in Canada. Oh my gosh, we had so many geese, and living on the farm, it's like skies of geese when they're migrating.
Yeah, and it's like if you know, back when Gary was, you know, talking about this, like you guys are more like gaggles. I started like I've always been fascinated with how geese fly. You know, you see them fly across the sky and it's just gorgeous. But I started actually really watching the energy from which they fly. And they fly way faster when, you know, they're flying together, but they also don't stay in the same formation. Do you know what I mean? Like if you've seen several of them flying across the sky at the same time, it's like some of them go, oh, I'm gonna go over here for a little bit. Oh, I'm gonna go over here, over here for a little bit. And that is one
Really?
of,
Sometimes they go on their own?
yeah, sometimes they'll be like all off on their own and they look like they're not flying as easily, but who knows what they're doing? Maybe they're just wanting a different scenery or, you know, whatever. Or they'll be like, you know, there'll be like 5 V's in the sky and some of them are moving from each one, you know, or some of them all will land and some of them keep flying. And then it's like the ones that didn't want to go down to the ground stay up and they go to a different V. And then it's like, they're never like, oh my God, I lost my, I lost my group of my gaggle. It's, I don't know. Like I would like to have a conversation with a goose. Is it a goose?
Yes, it's a goose. It's a goose.
I'd like to have a conversation with a goose and be like, do you ever like miss your gaggle of geese? Like, do you ever find them again? Or how does this work? You know?
Totally.
It doesn't seem like they are, you know, committed to one formation and one group of geese.
Right. Oh my gosh. Now I would really like to see geese. Like next time there's a
Yeah,
flock of geese in the sky, I'm gonna be like transfixed.
yeah, watch it. It's so beautiful, especially when there's like lots of them, you know, like a group when you can see all of them migrating. But I kept watching them like, huh, that's actually, you know, you said I started with social media and I did, and I started and I had no idea. I didn't have a plan for, you know, any of it, but I just was like, oh, it would be fun to, I really wanted to learn the business. So I was like, I'll start hosting classes. And then I did that for a little bit. And then I moved over here and then I moved over there. And it's like that for me, when people are like, what do you do? I am like, I like playing everywhere. And, you know, that when an access consciousness, the company allows for people to do and be that, which I find to be the most phenomenal thing. What a gift for someone like, you know, you and I that just gets bored after a while, or you know what I mean? Like
Totally.
any other
Totally.
company or industry I've ever worked in, you are on a track and you have to stay on that track and you even have to stay in department. Like it's just so limiting. Um, it
Totally.
does also allow you to learn and share awareness and all sorts of stuff. So
Well,
that's
that's the thing. Like for me, working for Access and with Access and in every avenue of access, it's like
yeah,
I just feel so privileged to be able to do it.
yeah,
And I don't think, I started when I was Access when I was 19 and I'd never had a real job. And
yeah,
so I didn't realize the privilege that it was to work for Access and how different the rest of the world was because I hadn't, I wasn't like you where I'd had another job and I realized, wow, Access is so different. And so
yeah,
Gary told me to go out and get a real estate license. Well, he was tricking me. and so I did, and I was in these real estate meetings and I was like, what the heck? Like this is like being like comatose. Like somebody
yep,
just like sedate me please so that I
yep,
don't have to like go this slow.
yep,
And it's also about sell, sell, sell. It's like with working with Access, it's like I'm valued. Like
yep,
I'm like truly valued, and I know that anybody that I work with or or facilitators will, like, if I have something going on, I know I can call them. I know I can call you. I know I can call anybody at any time that I need it. And like, it's not just about the business producing and then you like take your work hat off. It's like
Yep.
this amazing flow. And I'm so grateful now. Like, I've come and gone working from Access. And then, after doing the real estate stuff, I'm like, I will like do anything to have this job, because I'm so grateful for it, because it is so much fun, and I'm so valued. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And your capacities are valued, and you all of a sudden realize, oh, I actually have awareness in areas that other people don't, or that I'm a contribution that, it's like you don't have to just duplicate the way that somebody else did it because
Yep.
they had the right way. It's like you get to discover what you know about creation that's different.
Totally, exactly. And you totally have the freedom to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So like, do you want to, it would be kind of interesting, like, could you talk about sort of like let's say you're hosting a class. I know everything's online right now, so it's a little bit of a different game.
Yeah.
It has its challenges and it has the things that are easier about it, so it's different. But I like when you're hosting even a live class when things are going on, like how do you, can you talk about like having the awareness of the whole picture, sort of? I don't even know how to describe it. Like if you're doing a, let's say, like, because for those of you out there who maybe haven't taken any Access classes or just a bars class, like let's say with an Access 6-day event, or a Symphony of Possibilities event, often there's 150, 200 people,
Yeah.
300 people, sometimes 400 or 500. The biggest class so far was like a longer class, there were 3,000 people. And some of those people are online at home, and then some of these people are in this venue. And it's just, and they're all over the entire world. They've traveled from all over the entire world. There's like 17 languages, or maybe each class has different amount of languages depending on the request and the people wanting to take it. And then you have the people at home, and you have translators that are at home, and you have translators in the building. How do you I know that it's something that both of us have worked on as we've continued to do this, but I really see like that you have such an amazing ability to just keep your calm and just create like whatever is in front of you. And I'd love to hear more about like how you've sort of become that, and what you've come to terms with yourself, and the like, things you've acknowledged about yourself, because it's so much about that too, and trusting yourself and knowing yourself and being able to make these big decisions and stuff. And it's just kind of fascinating to me, so I'd love to hear your perspective on how that's sort of come about for you. And
Well,
for
it's definitely, I will say, it's not like I walked in the door and was like, oh, yay, I'm amazing.
yeah.
um, I definitely have, a capacity or two or three or whatever. But it's also a muscle that you have to stretch. Like when I first started working with the classes and events, both online telecalls and live classes with Access, I think the biggest classes we were having were, probably in the like with 100 people. And I remember, there's an amount of people that I was sort of comfortable with, right? It's like, okay, 100 people, it's like that's I can handle that.
Yes.
But then when you start when you start getting a little bit bigger, and actually it's not even the amount of people, but it becomes sort of like the scope of the event. If you add extra special events in there or whatever, it's like, um, I remember the first time I ever hosted an event on my own. So I wasn't like training with somebody who knew what they were doing and I could ask them any question. And basically it was like all of a sudden when I was the one that was the lead, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember talking with Jonas Svensson, who is, he works with, I don't even know what his title is, but he works with events all over the world. And he was like, I'm here for you and just go for it. Let's see, let's just go see what you got. Or like, I don't, he just kind of like took the training wheels off or something. And I remember it was the worst to me. It was like the worst event ever so far. It was in San Diego. It was on an island off of San Diego or something. Like it was,
Yes, I've been down there. It's like some sort of peninsula islandy thing.
yeah, so like I had all my ducks in a row, everything was good, like getting there, leading up to it, everything was in total control. Not that I'm a control freak or anything like that, but like everything was like ready, so nothing could go wrong, right? And we get there we get there and the room for Gary and Dane is like disgusting. So we have to move hotels, which is still not that great, but like, having a place that the stars of the event, that it's not up to par for them, is just number one, not ever a good thing. You got to take care of them. So if
Totally.
they're not happy, the whole thing's not happy. But I think we kind of got him happy. And then the morning of the event, the water main broke on the island. So that means that the showers didn't work in the hotel rooms, the toilets didn't work, the sinks, like everything. They couldn't have coffee because they didn't have water. And I was just like, oh my God, how do you keep, like, all these people, like, even though people know that it's out of our control, they still, guess who they get to, complain to? It's you, because it's your events and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh my God, I don't even so you go into this like, okay, what else is possible? You start using the tools of Access Consciousness. And the beauty of all of it is that when you're working with a business in consciousness, everything is designed to create more consciousness for you and everyone.
Totally.
So it was like, we found a way, and we brought in coffee from off the island, like you could like drive 15 or 20 minutes or something, but like the whole thing was just like crazy. And then also, like, I got sick, like, I mean, it kind of like took me to my knees in a way, but that was really the first time that wherever I thought I had to do it all on my own to prove that I could handle, an event on my own, I had to start receiving from everywhere, anyone, everything, and everywhere, because it just got it got so bad, basically. and and I'm really grateful, because that was the first one. And so then I started teaching me how to like pull, like see what people are great at and ask for their help, basically, even
Right.
if they weren't working with the class. It's like, hey, do you know, can you help us go get this, or what, whatever, but asking for help and starting to receive from everywhere, and knowing that, hey, it's going to be okay. So then it was like, then the next one, again, I don't know what it is about San Diego, but we had another event in San Diego, and the event went from, we thought like 80 people were showing up, and within, which was cool, because we also got on, we had a create call, and it was like, what would it take to have, it was an event with Dr. Dane here. And, knowing that anyone could come, it was like, what would it take to actually have like hundreds of people here? And that was before we were having hundreds of people events. And we just went on a create call, and we asked for it. Everything that doesn't allow everyone to find out about this, and da 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 da. We did some magic and everything, and asked for miracles. And within 48 hours, we went from like 80 people to 190 people.
Wow.
Is if you've worked with an event, which I know you have, it's like there are lots of things that go into that. Then more chairs, more massage tables. You have to up the coffee thing. Like when your event doubles, then as does the.
Totally. It's so funny. It's so easy to just think, oh, okay, we can just bring in, another 100 chairs and everything's fine. But it kind of, everything sort of mushrooms.
Yeah, you need to add more people to the staff, and and everything. And that was the first time that I really got, okay, what if we could create more than we can handle? Like, what if we could actually ask to create so much that we can't control it and we can't handle it, And what if you could have fun with not, like I said, I'm admitting that I'm a control freak. So choosing beyond what you can control invites you to go beyond what you can control, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
then you actually, it's kind of like the geese thing. Then you have to fly. And then you can be like, okay, who can help? Who can go here? And it was like, again, things were happening. The ceiling was leaking and like all sorts of shit was going going down. But I just remember like being just so at peace. I remember being so at peace with the whole thing. Like, if I can infuse a sense of peace and calm and ease, then that creates that space for everyone involved. And people can have their freakouts and everyone from staff can be freaking out to, people attending the event, because people are coming to change their whole life. And that brings up a level of freak out
It
that
does.
has nothing really to do with anything that you can handle as, a person dealing with a client, besides, hey, you know what? We gotcha. Show up. It's going to be okay. Just show up and it's going to be okay.
Yep.
And with people that you're working with, hey, you know what? What else is possible here? If we didn't freak out right now, what else could we create? Because from that space of relaxation, which is funny, I was just writing an email for Simone's relaxation call. But if you relax, not from checkout, not from, oh, I'm going to go sit at the pool until the event begins, but you just relax so that it allows everything that is possible to be possible, and things that you can't even imagine start showing up for you. And that
Wow.
sense of space and sense of relaxation allows so much more ease. But I think the key is it's not a place of like chill or not doing anything, or like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to go relax, which means I'm going to sit in a lawn chair and not do anything. It's like, no, what if you're relaxed but you are so present and going a million miles an hour, but from relaxation?
Wow. Yeah, it's kind of a different space, because it's a relaxation that I don't think anybody's really ever taught us. Like, it's not really a normal type of relaxation, because often people will relax from just completely checking out of their life, going on autopilot, and trying to escape their life. And this is like a totally different thing that you're describing.
Well, and back to the geese thing, I was like, oh, that's another thing that they be a relaxation. They're not frantically flying in the air like, wah, wah. I mean, sometimes they do, but they're not like flapping their wings, flying in circles, like freaking out that they're, whatever. They're just like, oh, we got this. We're soaring, like, so.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
that's actually a really good. This geese thing, I've never looked at it so closely. I've only heard it mentioned offhand, but it's what a great learning. Like, we can learn so much from nature, and like that's just one example that there's like a whole universe in there.
And Gary Douglas said one time, I don't remember, this is a complete misquote, but he said something about like have the speed of life, but be able to hear the birds or see the birds or something. So it's like you're not like frantically rushing through life. It's like a relaxation where you can still perceive, the peace of the birds flying around you. Which is
Wow.
different. Sometimes when I'm having those crazy moments, I'll just like look up into the sky and be like, oh, okay, we're good.
Totally. Wow.
But yeah, nature can teach you so much. Like animals, that's another place where I've really learned a lot about leadership, is through horses. And if you are listening and you're like, how can horses teach you anything? Oh my God, they have conscious horse, conscious rider classes with access consciousness. You don't ever have to get on the horse. You don't even have to touch the horse, but you can if you want to. But they are so energetically like aware and congruent with your requests that you start really seeing if you're congruent with what you're requesting. If you're saying, let's do this, and the horse stands there and stares at you, then what energetically are you not actually asking for?
Wow.
So if if this whole leadership thing, or how to work with big projects or whatever, it's like energetically, if you'd like a class that shows you how to energetically create from that demand and request and relaxation and letting go of control and all that sort of stuff, check out a Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider class.
Totally.
They're amazing.
Like, can you, like, leadership is so, I mean, gosh, we could have like 17 podcasts talking about leadership, and we could have 17 podcasts talking about what horses have to teach us. But it's like, can you just talk, you know, we just have a couple more minutes left, but can you just talk a little bit about, you know, the different type of leader that, you know, you see available, like a different way of leadership?
Well, I think I had a conversation with Gary a couple years ago now, I think at this point, because I apparently was leading from a place of like from push, if you know what I mean, like, hey, will you do this? Will you do this? Or like, you know, from this push, and it wasn't creating anything great for anyone working with me. I thought I was getting lots accomplished, but it wasn't from the space that I could actually be leading from. And I had a conversation with him about it, because of course I felt bad and blah 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 whatever. But I I said, you know, like, he's like, I think he's asked like something, are you willing to be the leader that you truly be? And I was like, you know what? You guys have these conversations on leadership all the time, and I'm included in them. And, you know, like, and what I just have to be honest. I don't actually want to be a leader. I just said it. I was like, I don't want to be a leader. I don't know what, I just don't want to be a leader. And he goes, yeah, well, when you are a natural leader and then you decide that you don't want to lead, then the only place that you can lead from is from behind, which
Interesting.
comes off as a push. I'm pushing people. I'm a natural leader saying I don't want to lead. So I will lead you from behind, which feels like a push.
Huh.
Which
That's incredible. I mean, really, like, that, breaking that down is just beyond incredible.
So then I started looking at, okay, if I were to actually, because there was so much involved, like, you know, like we talked about, like, there's all this stuff out there about what a leader is that I'd learned from people that are idiots, basically,
Yeah.
about what that meant and that responsibility and what I had to be and show up as and blah, blah, blah. And like, I didn't want to fail. And I, like, there's all this shit that came up with it. And then I started looking at, okay, what if I just started looking at what would be a leader for me? Like, if I were to have any leader in my life, what would I love? Like, who would I love to create with and run with? And it's like working with you. I remember in the beginning, you were like, is it okay if I tell you, like, we were creating graphics or something, and you're like, is it okay if I just tell you that I don't like it, or give you feedback? I'm like, absolutely. Like, I don't have a point of view that the way that I do it is right. I have awareness, but it doesn't mean mine's right. And it was beautiful, because I remember there's a telecall on aging, and I was like, I think I'd been working on like thousands of graphics at that point. So I was like, okay, this one's good enough is where I went to. And you took it like, no, it could be extraordinary. And what you found, like, you know, you found this owl picture. But that, to me, like, that's the leader I'd like to be, where everyone's included, everyone's awareness is included, and everyone's greatness can show up, and everyone gets to have you know, their greatness show up. And I can lead, I can invite and inspire people to that, but I have to be willing to choose that myself.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for just having this conversation with me, because I think that I think that you see things, you see the same thing that I see, but you see it from your point of view, and it helps me see my point of view better. So I really,
What's your point of, what do you see in leaders? Like, what do you love about, like, what have you learned about it? It's your podcast, so I'd like to get your point of view.
It's like, you know, I just, there are some leaders that I work with that are so honoring of who I am and honoring of everybody that they work with, even if it's like, you know, there are people like Gary who can be like, you're being a total asshole right now, like you're
Yeah.
ruining everything. And I'm like, so I'm like, thank you so much for telling me. Like,
Yep.
because he's not judging me. You know, he's not judging me at all, and he's been there for me. um you know, he's been there for me in a different way than anybody else has in my life. And every time that I have um, followed his leadership, really, because it is following in a way, but it's still what I wanted in the first place. So it's my own
Yeah.
leadership, but it's also following his leadership. You know, he's talked about following and being willing to follow. And so when I have, you know, it's been a lot of trial and error. You know, it doesn't
Yep.
happen overnight, like you were saying. And when I have followed his leadership, and followed my own awareness, it's like things have worked out in my life that are better than I would have hoped my life to work out. And it's like, huh? And then so then it's like when you have that kind of a relationship with somebody and you trust them that much, um, and you know, and they have given you so much in your life, it's like, you know, um, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like there's no push, there's no drag, there's no nothing. I'm just so grateful for um everything that he has been for me, and never judging me, that it's like I will literally be so grateful to do anything to support him or to help make his life work better.
Yeah.
And it's a bigger sphere than just him and I. It's this business, it's consciousness, it's everything that's going on, it's every project that we work on. And but it's just it's like that's what I, you know, would like to be in the world, and why I wanted you to come on this podcast, because I really see you being that. But it's like this place where you're so not in judgment of somebody, that they are, you know, grateful to contribute anything that they can, because you've contributed so much to them, you know. So it's very powerful. It's a very 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 sort of intimate, like it's not like, you know, you can't have that veil of like the business world, or you can't have that veil of confidentiality, or that veil of, you know, customer client relationships. It's like all of that is completely abolished in this different type of
Yeah.
business. You know, it's like that doesn't exist anymore, and it's this different world, and it's a much more magical, kind, happy world.
Yeah. And you
So
say the thing about judgment, and that's one thing that does kill a project or your
it
life.
kills,
Maybe
it
your life
kills.
is one big project, but you know, if you are a leading person in your life, with your projects, with your company, with whatever, notice when you go to judgment, and notice when you go to judge someone else for not doing something, or notice when you're judging what's showing up, because those are like, I've gotten way better. But it's like, you know, like with classes and events, it's like, oh, if you go into that's not enough or it's not working, that's there's no question there, you know, like. And I know we've got to get off, but it's just so interesting because, like, as an example, but all the events that were on the schedule for Access before coronavirus, they weren't growing, you know? It's like I'm looking at all of them throughout the whole year or whatever. And
Wow.
it's like for March and April, yeah, March and April, everything was getting really weird and nothing was growing. And a lot of us went to judgment in a way. Like we were aware, but we were judging that, like, okay, what's not like, it was so interesting because we were all so aware of a future that we didn't know we were aware of in some weird way. But that taught
Wow.
me so much because it was like, oh, there was an event in San Francisco where we had, you know, coronavirus hit, and the hotel shut it down to you could only have 50 people. Guess how many people were registered? 50. Same thing in like Budapest, like all these places, we never got above 50, which for Access, who creates hundreds, it was like we were like, what the fuck is going on? It's called the universe is giving you exactly what you, what you can handle, and you aren't asking, like maybe like, you know, what is this? What's going on? And then the ones that never happened, they never grew. So there's this whole place of, if you can catch yourself when you're going into judgment and instead flip it and ask a question. What is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? If so, how do I change it? Those things are vital in creation, in leadership, in all of it. So those are your 4 questions. There's your home play with anything that goes on with whatever you're creating, anyone you're working with, any project, your life. When something, comes up, gets sticky or whatever, what is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? If so, how do I change it? And be really aware if it's a yes or no, if you can change it.
Totally. No, those questions are so, when I remember to use them, they just change things around totally. And I love the one like, can I change this? Because to me, that's super empowering, because oftentimes it's a yes, I can change it. Sometimes it's a no because it's like somebody else's choice. But it's like when I ask, can I change this? And it is my choice, I've already assumed no somewhere in my world. And when I ask, can I change this? And I'm like, wait, yeah, like, wait a second, I can change it. I have the tools. And when it brings me to that, I'm just like, oh, I'm so grateful for this tool. And I have to change anything. And then it literally changes. Those 4 questions are so powerful. To a degree, I don't think that most people get. They're so powerful.
They are. So don't use them.
Don't use them. Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Julia.
So much. It's been
a
such
pleasure.
a nice way to start my morning.
Right? Yes.
Wow. Awesome. And thank you, everybody out there listening. And thank you for just everything you're being and choosing, and for being here and listening to this podcast and being the difference that you are. So thank you, Megan. And bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of A Different Reality. It would be awesome if you could share this podcast with your friends and family. I'm always looking to spread the seeds of consciousness. And you can find me on my website at juliasotas.com. Until next time, what energy, space, consciousness, and choice can you be to create a reality totally beyond this reality with total ease?